Today, I'm here at Canal Street Market recording with Listening Party, speaking with Emily Moodbeam Varnam, being the newly appointed owner and operator of New Women Space. Thank you so much for being with the Red Dot Collective today, specifically with me.
Yay, thank you so much for having me and saying my name right.
After like 3 times.
No, it was so good.
I'll just let it be, it's, as long as the energy's there and the correction is there, then, that's all you can really ask for. Are you enjoying this 50-degree but really feels like 70-degree weather in the beginning of February?
Yeah, I'm loving it. I walk to the space a lot because I bring my niece, who's 22 months, and stroller access is a huge deal. I mean, we know that because what just happened with Malaysia Goodson this week, falling down the stairs, losing her life, which is a reproductive justice issue with the subway. So not to get right into it, but
no, thank you for actually getting right into it. That was a really wild, and oh my God, honestly, that wasn't the first time I've heard nor seen something like that. I actually saw this woman that was lifting a stroller up, and the stroller flipped, and the baby fell out of the stroller. But thank God they were okay. But I witnessed that myself. This is not an uncommon thing.
Yeah, it's really. It all is related, and that's kind of the scope of everything that I do, all of the work that I do, and the role I have in Naya's life, who's my niece. It really is all interconnected, and I just think it's so important to mention Malaysia and just like raise her up, as that should not have happened
at all,
and we can't lose sight of that, and we have to keep kind of remembering. So. That to say, you just asked me a question about the weather, and I was like, reproductive justice.
You know what? That's what we actually should. No one should start any type of interview with, how's the weather today? No, you really
love the weather. I don't know. But I walked to the space yesterday with Naya, so it's always good when we don't have to take the subway, because that's like, she needs a stroller to nap in at the space, so that's when I do my work with her there. But so we were able to walk and like open a business bank account and like do all the stuff that we're doing together. Part of the reason that so it was really, there was an email sent out that said, the Sandy, who founded with Melissa, founded New Women Space, said like, hey, I'm stepping down, and kind of talked to a few people about the possibility of them stepping in to that role, and I was one of those people. And part of the reason why I responded was because I wanted to do something with my time that would be something that Naya could come to and watch women, trans, and GNC folks lead, because at New Women Space, that's the focus. So it's like events, co-working.
I mean, when I saw her, I was like, God, that must be so beautiful, especially to see this, young girl of color, like, being able to be in a space. And like, because I was, just for the audience, I was there making snack packs with Bad and Foodie, which is an organization that like makes snack packs and everything to donate for causes.
Gave so many away today.
Yes. Oh my God, that's good to hear. Shout out to Sage in Paris, because they're running that org very well. In addition to Sage working with Red Dot, I don't know how she does all of it.
So much cool stuff.
But yeah, it was like a nice like Saturday afternoon, and she was coloring upstairs while we were like listening to trap music downstairs, and it was really great to be able to see her take in all these different experiences, all these like young women of color, like female identifying women of color, being able to like, I don't know, come together and see that. I'm excited to see. I mean, I don't know if I'm going to see her in the future, but I look forward to that idea. Yes. That was me secretly. Like, I hope so. I loved coloring with her. But that's awesome. Well, so tell me about let's give a little bit of a summary of what New Women's Space is, and how long it's been about.
Yeah, so it's been around for 3 years. Sandy and Melissa started it as a pop-up. It was like, okay, this is going to be a temporary thing. And then it just kept going. And I know that they would be able to give a much more thorough story about what that kind of keeping going looked like. And I know that also one of the amazing things about the space is that it's evolved so much, because when you're a space that's for community, anybody who's in the space makes the space. And so, that was kind of happening. And then Melissa moved to the West Coast. So then it was just Sandy. And then in the last few months, Sandy was then had a job and kind of more and more doing that, a job outside of New Women's Space. And so, so then he kind of opened it up. And I was a resident of the space at the time. So that all to say, that's kind of a little bit of the history of the space, and people can definitely read more about that on the site. But right now, its current iteration and how it's going to be moving into this next year and potentially beyond that is that we have different aspects of the space that are all kind of running at the same time.
Okay.
One of those is that we have co-working. That's like a membership thing that people do. It's like $25 a year. I'm like, people need to do it.
Seriously. I was shocked when I feel did Sandy have that developing before? Or
Yeah, that was there.
Yeah, because when I was there, I was like, yo, that's only $20. You know how many entrepreneurs, freelancers just need a space to do work? And what a cute space it is, and a very clean space.
And people are getting each other jobs, and they're doing collaborations, and it's like a kind of a chatty co-work, but you can fully go ahead and like do your thing. But I sit in there all day and I see people just collaborating and like not just dreaming and talking about stuff, but actually like the next week I'm seeing the flyer.
Yeah.
I'm seeing, like, it's amazing. It's really amazing to be in that space. So we have the co-working, we have a small business clinic, which is Steph AQs, which is Steph. And that is on Mondays. So people that already people that have a business and they're like I have another business, not just.
And what's that business?
That's the Fifth Vital Sign, which is sexual and reproductive health education, which I co-founded with Kelsey Knight, who's an L&D nurse. And I'm a doula, and so we do this education business. And so we're a member of Steph AQs. That's kind of how we came into the space as residents of New Women's Space, kind of offering programming, and then joined Steph AQs, which is the business clinic. And then we also have residencies. So that is people who have been involved with the space for a while and end up creating programming that then is once a month, kind of under the same theme, which is really awesome. It's everything that we're doing is about incubating, and every role within that is kind of available. So whatever people want to do when they come in, like, it's possible to do it, you know?
I mean, with Red Dot, like, we do events all the time. And I don't think we've experienced such a wonderful venue. And I want to say venue specifically, just looking, because that's what we were looking for at the time, New Women's Space. We've had comedy shows there. I think we prefer to have comedy shows there. Even though it's an intimate space, every single time we have a show, they are saying, comedians, audience members, I've never been in a space where I felt so comfortable to be myself, to be able to laugh at stuff that I think only specific people can relate to, but it's still broad enough for, people that haven't been in the space before can experience and enjoy at the same time. And especially in comedy, I was talking to a lot of comedians, because most of them are just WOCs or, non-binary, and they are saying that they normally don't perform for a space that is like not white men, and so being that and I think, yes, Red Dot has something to do with bringing some people together, but it's the space itself that's providing that energy, and I don't doubt that at all. Like, I truly give homage to that space to bring in such good people. It's crazy. It's like magic.
Yeah, it's such an obvious concept to have spaces that are specifically for people who actually don't get to have every single space.
Yeah.
And just to be clear too, I am Indian and British and identify, I'm a white lady. I'm a white cis lady. And there are events where I'm like, actually, like, better if I'm not here. Like, this is a specific space. And I think that needs to be happening in more spaces where it's just like, not everybody has to be at everything. Some things are just like very specific, and that's appropriate.
Yeah, and it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's something I also applaud New Women's Space. I don't know if it was started with Sandy, but this space was providing free event rental, I guess, for events that were specifically for Black women, and specifically for the community that was like in. And you don't see a lot of spaces that will provide that option. Like a lot of people like to say or argue, you know, like gentrification's a thing. Yeah, like fuck gentrification, all that stuff. You're not really doing anything in this capitalist structure to, you know, assist the community that you are living in, basically. But I think New Women's Space did a very honest and direct way to provide opportunity, provide the community to make events in a very financial, generous way, I guess, you know?
Yeah, that would have definitely been Sandy. Everything that's been there for a while would have definitely been Sandy and Melissa. And I can't say enough how much I admire what they've set up.
Yeah.
And really, like, all I'm doing is coming in and saying, like, here's the business signing off. Like, if anything happens, like, that's my credit score. Cool. Like, that's really it. And I'm pretty new to this country in terms of having a credit score. So I'm like, I don't even really know. Hopefully it's fine. Like,
just pay your credit card on time. And that's all you got to worry about. So, I guess. I'm only 25.
Yeah. I don't know. No, I think, you know, again, like a lot of this is me just stepping back, and letting the things that are already happening there happen. And I think what's being brought in with Steph being there, is that there is this component of people really learning how to run a business in a way, like I think something that has been missing from some of the movement spaces I've been in, which is like, it's okay to have business skills, and those actually we need to be sharing those, and we need to be like helping each other get jobs, and we need to be like, you know, figuring that out. And even in this time that I've been there, like I've seen people just come in and like get a job with something, or like get an opportunity, and that's super important too, because outside of, you know, not everybody is doing their passion project as their job. A lot of people are coming in there and doing their events, but then they have to find a way to pay their rent so they can do that.
Exactly.
So having that component in there has been really incredible to see people like, oh, I can do that. Wait, I can, and just seeing how people's confidence and like how they're negotiating things like really changing. And that's been great. In terms of what I bring in as the new, and also just to add to the structure of the space, actually, one of the things that Sandy and I talked about in this kind of transitional conversation was that I really felt like it would be a good idea to have the ownership be termed. So that somebody else will come in as the owner. I think
that's a great idea.
So nothing leaves the business, and I don't take anything out.
Yeah.
I just came in and was like, okay, I'll set up this company off my own, whatever, and then. So I come in as a volunteer. Everybody that's there comes in as a volunteer. But what it means is you can incubate your own thing within that. And my thing is going to be kid parent or kid guardian co-working. So having, I just really don't think we can talk about, I'm like, can you talk about productivity without children? Because what does that mean?
You have to.
Without kids.
Yeah.
What are we, there's so many spaces that I'm at where I'm like, wait, are we really going to do this without parents right now? We're not. And
especially in the community that it resides in. Like, there are a lot of, let's say, single moms. There's a lot of single parents in general. Like, but they need jobs. They need to figure out how to orchestrate their lives, how to make bread, you know?
And actually, I really want, like, what you said about Naya being there as, you know, this young child of color and being, you know, seeing everybody working together. I'm like, yeah, I actually do want to hear your business ideas in 5 years. We do want that. Like, I want you to know that this is absolutely a space for you, and that there are spaces for you outside of that. And that's really what, I mean, I have worked for 20 years with children. That's what I care about. I don't think that we can talk about the future without talking about parents. We can't plan for the future without planning for parents. So thinking about how we can set up parents to be able to work and their kids to be able to work in terms of like baby work. Naya calls it, she's like, I'll do baby work, which is coloring or playing. But while I'm doing, you know, adult work, she's doing baby work. And I think
which is just as needed. Which is just as needed. Because it made my day coloring with her.
And people can come in that are not parents or guardians, and they can, work and see like, oh, actually, like if I want to be a guardian or if I want to be a parent, that's possible.
Yeah.
Because there are a lot of different ways people are building families. Even just with my family, the fact that my sister-in-law and my brother are working, and there's my Naya's grandmother lives upstairs, and her aunt and her cousin, and then I'm around, so she has all these adults, and this is just like we're all focusing on these 2 kids.
Yeah. It's a village. Mm-hmm. I was essentially, I had the same village dynamic. I was actually just had dinner with my godmother last week, we call her Reverend Gina, because she is actually a reverend. She's legit. Like,
please bring her in.
Right? She's so cool. I actually would love to. She just gave me a great little sermon about silence. I'm not even religious. That's the funny thing. But I was telling her that this guy essentially ghosted me, right?
Don't even get me started.
Right. She was like, well, silence, it gives you the space to really cultivate your own thoughts and how you're going to apply it to the situation. Are you even really interested in this person, right? I was like, damn, Reverend Gina. Sorry I said damn. No, she's awesome, but I forgot where. Oh yeah. So it's the village dynamic. Many people with many different experiences, either in your like blood family or, just family that just connect. They help raise this person, because it does take a village to do so.
It really does.
Isn't that wild? Like,
it really does. I mean, honestly, at the end of last year, I came off the back of being a tour nanny for this band, and I
You were a tour nanny?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
On a tour bus with 2 babies. It was like flying as well, like sometimes flying without the parent, like, yeah.
I've never heard of that job, but it makes sense. Obviously,
there's
musician
all ways that
nannies.
you can be around children and birth and breastfeeding and all those things. But when I kind of sent my email to say, like, I can't continue into the next year, in my email I was like, because I'm going to have a baby next year. I didn't know it was going to be like such a metaphorical baby. But I was like, and I'm going to have it with a few people, because that is how I'm going to reproduce.
Yeah.
Like when I physically reproduce, that is how I plan to do it. And my plan, when I literally wrote in my journal, I was like, how does a community raise a child? And in that way too, how does a community raise a person? Because, what I know from going to school to be a therapist and doing that kind of work too, is that it's actually never too late to get what you needed. And so, like, does the community also have the responsibility to continue to raise people and to raise each other and to allow each other to change? I think so too. And especially when we think about, like, just the tenderest moments of being able to find a community where you can express your full identity.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Like, that's really, like, the raising and the growing that I'm interested in, is people showing up in that wholeness and that fullness, but in that growth and like changing and being allowed to change. So I think of that with children and with adults and everybody in between. But that's what it was. I was just like, how does this happen? And then this came along and I was like, oh, it's this, and it's a specific design on my part to say that that Naya's with me. So people are always like, oh, how often is she here? And I'm like, as much as she can be, because I specifically want her to meet you, person who's coming through the door, and see what you're going to do here.
Yes.
Because I specifically want her to have those skills, and I want other people's children that they care about to be there too.
Oh my God, this made me so excited. Oh man. I mean, New Women's Space has definitely been it's funny because that was a space that I think really at first introduced me to the non-cis experience, and in doing so it actually helped bring me out into my queerness. So all this happened, I think, just continue to be in this space, like, and learning and like ending up in relationships with people that I don't identify as one gender or the other, and like, or change their gender to identify as such. So it's like this space helped introduce that to me, as long as you go in with the open mind and like willingness to learn. And I think other people really need to benefit as long as they do come in with that open mind. And the cool thing is, there was Red Dot had a panel discussion like last year, and it wasn't like a favorite for me because, we advertised it saying like the panel was like non-binary experience, like all this stuff, and it just wasn't that. And I felt that I was like, this isn't authentic. It's not how we roll. But this was not organized the way we normally organize. This is not how we do it. And there was a woman that, or I don't actually know if she identified as a woman, but she came up to me and was like, hey, I just want you to know you kind of like false advertise this for XYZ reason. And I was like, thank you so much for that honesty. And I appreciate you coming up to me and talking about it. And I hope that, you know, if you give us your contact information, we'll be sure to let you know our next event so you can really see how we like operate, because I'm sorry it was not for you for that. And I think the space allowed that freedom of interaction, that discussion with one another, and that honesty, because like people need to hear that too, you know.
That's really powerful. Getting any kind of feedback is such a gift, to be able to like receive somebody's honest thoughts and their experiences. I mean, that's like data. You can do something with that. That's great. You can't do something with no data.
Yeah.
You know, and that's, those kinds of conversations are super important. I find too that in the reproductive health, I don't want to say reproductive justice because that's actually different. In the reproductive health, especially menstrual cycle related stuff, I've just really had a hard time. A lot of the places where I see that's being spoken about and the way that it's being portrayed is super cis het normative. And it's really, really hard to break out of that. And it's not to say that like everybody who, it's also like sometimes a period is like causes dysphoria and sometimes it causes like, but that also gets to be talked about. You know, all of those things get to be talked about. And it's really been off-putting. I've just noticed the level of white supremacy and the level of transphobia in these different like period focused kind of Facebook groups and things like that. And I'm like, I want to talk to some people and I want to change that, because that's my business with Kelsey. The fifth vital sign is a menstrual, like that's how we started talking about like charting and talking about like the menstrual cycle. And I'm like, it's this huge barrier. It's like actually makes me not want to engage with organizations of that specific type, because it just ends up, I'm like, when are you going to say something transphobic? When is something going to be even just, you know, talking about things like abortion access. I'm like, can we actually stop saying women for every single thing? And can I please not see a pink vagina again? Except if it's my own. Like really, honestly, I'm like, that's the only one I'm willing to see right now. Especially now I'm not attending births. I'm like, no more vaginas for a little bit for me. Like really, those kinds of things. I'm like, can we broaden that somehow and just like stop making it this one thing?
And not try to argue when someone is trying to just like, I understand you don't understand what I'm coming from, so let me like share my experience. But they're like, no, though you don't. I don't. This doesn't make sense. Like obviously, if you have a period, you're obviously a woman. But it is just like all you have to do is just listen and really reflect, take in the information and digest it, and consider it yourself outside of your own shoes and consider someone else's. That's why, and I'm going to just say this because I have my own problems with it. That's why I have problems with like organizations like The Wing and places like that, which is essentially just like a white girl sorority that's trying to adopt different WOCs to help diversify the experience, when really it is just like wealthy ass white women that are trying to. Sorry, I just went on a read.
No, I hear you. Like 100%. I hear you. I think that, it's just so interesting how how things are branded, how things are spoken about, and like really what matters is if you walk into a space and that space is for you, and you feel that, and there's nothing you can do to imitate that. And I think there's an interim thing that happens where if there's enough people in a space that you trust or kind of feel like, okay, well that person's doing it, or that person's kind of like me, and you go into a space and you feel that it's not right for you, there can be kind of a lag in feeling like you can leave if there's enough people in there that kind of like give it a cosign. And that can be really hard. And it's not, there's so many things like that. There was, especially, I just noticed it when we founded this organization. Then I was like, oh, there's tons of harmful stuff happening. And all you have to do to make something seem harmless is just put feminist in front of it.
Yeah.
or like just put like a few brown people on pictures
On
on Instagram,
Yep.
but like not actually be paying any brown people.
Or putting them in like admin staff or higher up staff. Because we had people that works there that have the qualifications to be in the higher up staff that they were looking for, and encourage the people who were, and those same people were in barista kitchen staff. That's how they put they'll put you in there first. And then they say, oh, like if there are positions open up, please apply, do all this stuff. And I promise you, like the people that were there were absolutely qualified, because when they hired outside of the organization, that same person will go to the person in the kitchen and say, hey, how do you do this? How do you do that? All like for the job that they were hired for, you know? So it's just frustrating. And I feel like I am very open in public about talking about the wing, because it is like exploiting the trend of diversity in public spaces and community spaces and organizations. Like, it is cool, and it is to have people of color as your face, right? Colleges have been doing that forever. So I just want people to be cognizant of where they're putting their money. And not every place requires you to throw $300, $400 a month just to have a shower in a nice locker room.
Yeah, it's hard to think about the sustainability of something that costs that much, and what is it. I just am not clear on what it gives you in terms of like you making that money back. And I'm pretty new to credit cards too, and I'm like, I feel like that's just
be careful.
A lot of credit card debt right there. I mean, too, I'm just like, okay, go ahead, like don't hurt anyone, but like consenting adults are signing up. Okay, I just feel like I don't want it to be a situation with anything like that. I'm not even just saying the wing. I think there's lots of companies that have used like feminism and diversity as a marketing strategy.
Absolutely.
And one of the things I'm really aware of with New Women Space is like, I really don't want to advertise anything and not be able to meet people when they come based on the ad. So I don't want to say like, I don't want to make an invitation that I'm not able to, like, I don't want to write checks that I can't cash, right? Like, I don't want to be like, come for this, and then I'm there like, hi, hey, it's me, just a Becky. Like, I don't want, I don't want that. I want to be very clear, like, this is what it is. And that's why, like, there is a lot of transparency with New Women's Space. Before I even got there, Sandy gave a presentation where he had like a picture of the bank statement. Like, it is transparent. And if people ask me, they're like, hey, what's the situation? I'm like, well, we're able to pay the rent and we're able to pay the bills. That's the situation. Like, this is not going to be like $1 million company.
Yeah.
When I opened the bank account, they were like, do you think you're going to put $250,000? And I was like, I don't think that. Do you see me with this baby who's coloring on your paper right now? I don't think that. But that's not the goal. The goal is to incubate a lot of different things. And how many ways can we use this space? Like, Steph has this cafe that is going to be able to be taken to different locations.
Really?
To actually sustain different locations. So if there's community spaces that are like, we need a revenue stream that allows us to pay the rent. That's what she's incubating as her residency.
Smart.
And then there's like the retail partnerships where we have like people coming in and like selling their stuff there. So tons of people who, it's like
and publications.
Anybody who doesn't have publications, people who don't have a space. Because actually, like, as a small business owner myself, I know that one of the biggest barriers for us was always having a space, and we couldn't have signed on to a space ourselves. But we needed to have like, okay, where are we going to host our workshops? And like figure that out. We needed to have that possibility. And I just think incubation is so key.
Especially with when the intention, like, you have a positive, giving, generous, like the space itself is a positive, generous, giving intention behind it, right? It's like you said, it's not, the goal is not to become $1 million company. The goal could easily be support those that could eventually, and with the positive intention behind it, they'll give back to the space in some form.
But everybody should be able to move through that space. Like I said, come in as a member and like end up as the owner. Yeah. Like, that's really my goal. And I think that's super possible.
Perfect example.
Yeah, right. And I really would like to see, and like in my time there, my job is just to make it more and more easy to have some stuff in place that ends up being easy for people to cycle through.
Right.
So like, oh, that already helps to pay the rent. Cool. Like Sandy had set that up so well that things were kind of turning over in terms of event
so
rentals
dope.
and things like that. So it's like, okay, cool, come in and incubate your thing. I was like, I want to do kid guardian co-working. I want to incubate people who have recently incubated people. That's what I want to do. Let's figure that out.
And there's room for that development. God, Sandy is a legend. Sandy and Melissa,
seriously.
like legends.
Seriously.
There's so much respect in the kindness, and what they taught me is just spectacular. But it's interesting, especially when you said merchandise, because I loved how this happened. So I believe when Sandy was still the owner, there was a situation that they were being, New Women's Space was being vandalized with, I like this word in general, so I'm going to say it, cunts, right? But obviously not a word used in a positive way or reinforced way.
British people say it a lot.
I actually did not know that. But it sounds better when you guys say it.
Cunt. People think I'm saying cunt when I'm just saying can't, so I have to say cannot.
That's hilarious.
It can be awkward.
And so So can you tell us a little bit about that and how that was turned around to be a more positive experience?
Yeah, so the word cunts was graffitied 7 times on the door.
7 times? Gosh, I thought it was once and twice.
Yeah, 7 times. And when you go into the upstairs bathroom at New Women's Space, you'll see like a little sign with a picture of that graffiti. And what they did in the end is they just took a picture and made it into a shirt, and 10% of the proceeds from that go to RAIN, which is like, I believe, a sexual violence
Oh my gosh.
organization. Yeah.
I just
So,
got so
yeah.
excited because that's so dope. To be able to redirect such negative, that's how you're supposed to do it. And you do it with humor and ownership, right?
I wonder if that person's come in before and been like, oh shit. That was my design, but they can't be like, that was actually my design.
Where's my check? Oh,
Yeah,
okay. You want to go to jail?
Oh, okay. Yeah. So,
Oh, I love
but
that.
also to say it's also interesting that you bring up jail, because I think too, I was talking with somebody today, and there was an event. We're talking about doing an abortion event, and we're talking a self-managed abortion event.
Okay.
And we were talking about what security for that would look like for attendance, because people do show up to stuff,
Yeah.
and they do say stuff that's scary, and people are pretty scary about abortion. And we were talking about what it looks like if we did need security, and it made me think about kind of the accountability structures that are in place in terms of if you have a community space, that's something you have to think about. And there's just really no way that I can see a situation in which I want to call the police into a space like that, because that is not safe for most of the people that are there.
Yeah.
I'd literally be the only one hey, okay, let's go outside.
Actually, though,
Okay,
the softness of your voice may turn down the situation, bring it down.
But it's just not,
There's
it's
calming.
not. So I love what they did with the cunts, because it's accountability in a different, it's not direct accountability because we don't know who did it, but it's it changes that act, and it does. For me, there is a link there to abolition. There is a link to, which is a huge part of everything that we're thinking about. It's really setting people up for success. It's about saying Sandy had. Both Sandy and I are super into Emergent Strategy by Adrienne Maree Brown. Also the practice of emergent strategy, which is just this multiplicity of things that can arise out of simple everyday interactions.
Yeah.
And I think that is such an emergent thing to create something that has had, we don't even know the impact. Having a shirt that says cunts and wearing that around, creates different conversations.
Yeah.
That money that goes to that organization, that creates this good in the world. And I think really we do, when we have a community space, when we take up any space in a community, we have a responsibility to think about and practice abolition.
Yeah.
Because that affects everybody. That is the edges of everything that we do, and also the center of everything that we do, which is what happens when there's harm. How do we deal with that? And a lot of times harm is not just this random act of violence. I love how Miriam Kaba says, nobody enters violence for the first time by committing it.
Mm-hmm.
So like, of course,
It takes a long time. It takes time to harbor that whatever they're feeling that will lead them to act violently,
and it's just
right?
like it completely is humanizing to think about the fact that nobody, for the first time, when they think about a violent thing, it's like not from the fact that they've already experienced violence themselves, or had that kind of introduction
That's
outside
sad.
of them committing it. So like, how do we humanize people when we keep that in mind?
Mm-hmm.
And she also says, like, how would you want to be treated on your worst day, when she's thinking about, like practicing abolition. And so, when we're thinking about like all these great things that we want to create in the space, we also have to think about like, what happens when like something between a few people or two people happens and there's harm, and like, and then that also is part of a conversation that we have in a community.
And you have to be most times like quick with your responses, but it has to be strategic.
Mm-hmm.
And
it's long. I mean, we're talking about relationships. It's long and it's deep and it's like, it's complicated, and we can't expect people to forgive, and we can't prescribe people's reactions. So like, we have to find ways to hold people in. If we're gonna say like, come as you are, like that means a lot of different things.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I'm always curious, like, if there are going to be people, because like when you go into the space, you naturally feel this energy of the kind of people that are going to come in. But when you are challenged with a group that may want to learn but could be extremely ignorant and challenge whatever event is going on or happening, it's like you said, how do you handle that? Personally, I think the cunt story is a perfect way to handle that, know?
That really inspired me. I mean, right now, that's something that I haven't really had that experience in my time there yet, but it's definitely something that I'm working on. Like a couple of the things that I thought about when I came into this, in my same like little notebook, were like, what's the accountability? And I'm so like, I have so many friends who are really, really versed in this. Like my friend Olivia does amazing abolition work, and also like goes into Rikers and does all these different, I really, really like has a clear understanding of like, when people ask like, but what about rapists? When they're like, when we're saying like, hey, we need to not have police and we need to not have prisons, that's always the question. Which is like super, that's an awful thing to happen. It's really, really awful. Yeah.
That most people have experienced, right?
Yeah. That's, we can never take away from that, but it's also like, how do we practice abolition in that space? And that's always the question. And I think, I have a lot of friends who actually have that experience of actually really sitting down and thinking about abolition and working through those practices of accountability. So I feel really lucky for that in community, and really lucky to have gone to things like the Allied Media Conference and met and spoken with people who have all this experience. And really, for me, this is a lot of learning. And I really appreciate the people who are trusting me in this, and also the people who are not sure or who are still like processing Sandy transitioning out and me transitioning in. One of the principles of emergent strategy facilitation is like moving at the speed of trust. Yeah. So you can never move quicker than
That is so beautiful. Wow. I'm going to use that. Wow.
That's Adrienne Marie Brown. Yeah, I mean...
You got to give me some book titles, by the way, because the fact that you keep saying abolition, I was like, I have not heard that word in so long. Because you learn about that in college and all that stuff. Really dive in, especially when you're doing gender studies, race studies, all that stuff. But like, it's easy to forget that abolitionists exist still. Is not like a old folk tale, right? The word itself still exists. Because a lot of times in history that I think words get muddied up or it changes or something like that. But that is a powerful word, and there's a lot of history to that word. So to hear it in this modern age just gets me all excited, because it's like, okay, we're back. Like, let's fight the power. Let's do it. Like, it feels like it's doable, especially with a word like that. So the fact that you were saying that, it just got me really excited.
No, it's completely, it's all connected. It's like when we're in our like power as communities, like really like connecting in this way, which I also love. Again, emergent strategy, the fact that it thinks about everybody in their own individual way. When we're thinking about like a thriving community, everybody is an individual being themselves. It's
Yeah.
not like everybody is like doing the same thing. And I love that, because that's how it's all based upon principles of nature. And I just think, yeah, like we never look to these patterns within nature to help us to learn how to thrive as human beings, but actually like those are within us. And yeah, I think that's such a great, it's such a great book, such a great practice. Adrienne Maree Brown is so great, and Octavia Butler
Okay.
is so, yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna on the. If you just want to like spit like a few more book titles just so people get woker than they should,
But
and
yeah,
go for
Octavia
it.
Butler is really where a lot of this comes from, and where emergent strategy was like, yeah, all of her work. And I love her work because when I think about what we're doing at New Women's Space, for me, it's like, what is it like when we pre-enact what the future is? Because pre-enactment is when we dream, but with our bodies and our time and our lives with each other.
Wow.
You know what I mean? It's like a physical, like if we were going to act something out that we want this to be like all over the world, or like what does it look like when our accountability structures don't include harm for the person who has like who has inflicted harm, but just includes like it's okay to take somebody out of a position of power. It's not okay to take away their ability to live.
Yes. Yeah.
Those things are different. Like you absolutely don't have the right to have power over other people if you cause harm. Like it's okay to remove you from that position of power. So you can't do it again. That's okay. You can't have your life taken away and be rotting in a jail.
I mean, I agree. I don't, for many reasons, especially like studying this in college. It was like my second major, just learning about the prison systems and incorporating that with Red Dot, and like the fact that you can't even donate products to prison systems, and they say it's because like we don't know, and I say this with the largest quote hands, like we don't know what you're hiding in the products that you're donating, all this stuff.
You can't even order from Amazon. There's certain things you can't even send in from Amazon, which by the way, like why should Amazon be the only, in
its own issue, the fact that this multi-billion-dollar like with labor issues and all this stuff.
And then JPay, like you have to pay to do like little videos and little like and message with your friends. Like it really is.
It's a very backwards experience, and the safety that comes along with it, the hygiene that they don't consider. I mean, the fact that people had to protest the fact that there was no heat or electricity. And if you really want to argue for it, like obviously they're not going to be for the prisoners, but you can argue also for the guards that are watching the prisoners. Like they have to be there also. So the fact that this weekend people were protesting that made me really happy. Unfortunately, I couldn't go, but I did get hit up a few times to be there, so I feel guilty.
Yeah, it's really, it really just can't. This is not how our communities. This is not how it's supposed to be for humans.
But agreed, to transition into a positive future, right? And with New Women's Space, do you see New Women's Space expanding beyond the Brooklyn location?
I would love for it to expand. Again, thinking about emergent strategy, like I think about like those like when you blow a dandelion to tell the time, and all the little pieces go to different.
Oh my God, that was beautiful. Yes.
That's how it should be. It
like
really,
a gentle blow. Like it's not extreme, immediate.
And then like landing.
Yes.
Landing, and it has those little like soft things. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, right now, full transparency again, I have no idea. Like every day I'm like, if this is too hard, if it doesn't fit with this neighborhood, if it isn't received by the community, we just stop.
Yeah.
That's okay.
The pop-up dynamic.
That's okay.
Mentality.
If it has to end, it is okay when things start, and it is okay when they end.
Yes.
And I learned that from birth, and it's completely fine.
It's part of literally the seasons and the cycles of life. Like people forget that. It's like people on a spiritual sense, people get scared when things die. But death is a part of birth. It's part of the cycle. We all go through seasons. That's why seasons exist. I think it affects us as humans. That's why people get all freaked out with seasonal depression and all that stuff. It's like, no, because you're forcing yourself to do more when really in this time you're supposed to hibernate. Like you're really supposed to be reserved in yourself. Yeah, isn't that crazy? I love talking about stuff like this. How it all interconnected. Yes.
I mean, but also, why would our bodies have all these cycles within them, no matter what bodies we have, right? They have all these cycles in them. That's why we enjoy ritual so much, and also why cultural appropriation doesn't work, because it's like taking someone else's prescription. It's not for you.
True.
Because it's based upon the cycles of someone else's body.
Yeah.
Or like someone else's like land or someone, whatever. But yeah, I would love to see this happening, and I think it really has to be in physical time and space. I don't think it can be like an online thing.
Okay.
You know, like I really think where it becomes magical is like when people are in person with each other, and I really want to hold on to that, especially if we're thinking about intergenerational connection. We can't stop being in space together, because it makes all of those conversations that are more difficult to have so much softer.
Yeah. It's experiential. The space is significance is that it's an experiential space. Not everything needs to belong on the internet, you know?
And that's not necessarily, there are so many different ways that we can mark like success or progress or whatever. And I just don't think that making it easier for people to access. I'm also super aware that as soon as you tell a story on the internet, like that can be co-opted.
Yeah.
And it's really about like, no, just come and feel it. And if it's for you, great. And if it's not,
it's okay.
Also fine.
Yeah.
You know, like it really
Thank
has
you for
to
coming.
be felt. Yeah. Thanks for coming. Like, do you want a CBD soda?
Yeah.
Like,
do you guys have that now?
Yeah.
Yes. You guys are so hip.
Yeah, we have all the things. Steph is like doing Steph is just amazing, and I wish was here. But if you come to New Women's Space, you could meet Steph.
Yeah, who is truly, like, you introduce yourself, and then she's like, hi, I'm Steph. And I'm like, how are you feeling? I'm feeling awesome. I am always feeling awesome. And I'm like, God, yes, you are awesome. She's the warmest person. I just met her, and she was extremely warm. Well, you were too. Like,
Yeah.
Absolutely. But
she's amazing.
Just like,
and just has so much knowledge and expertise that is so critical to the space. And I just respect this human so much.
And even her, like, she was supposed to be on the show today. Even her taking the time to be like, you know what, I'm not ready to represent like what we're going to talk about right now. And I'm like, totally cool. The fact that you want to ensure that the best foot is forward and is being discussed to fully represent this space puts a lot of generosity. It means a lot of generosity that you have, a lot of thoughtfulness. Like, I appreciate that she really reflected and took that time and was like, no, I can't. I won't be able to provide what you're looking for right now, and that's fine. It changes
every day because of the speed at which Steph is able to be present in every moment. So I can't wait for her to come and talk about all of her residencies.
She's always
she has
welcome.
Tons of residencies within the space.
So cool.
But I think just coming in and seeing us is really the best way to figure all that stuff out.
I agree. I'm telling you, it is a meaningful experience. And I think my last question in general is there anything coming up that you want to talk about? Any fun facts? Any fun plugs?
Oh, there's tons of things. We have stuff like
every day.
Single day. We have
Seriously.
So it's New Year. And we have like this all Asian women market happening on Saturday. On Sunday we have like a vegan food market. Like literally every day we have this event called Wander and Chill, which is like yoga, wellness, like really, really cool chill vibes, like connecting with other people in that field. We have, in general, every week we have the Business Clinic Mondays. We have See You Next Tuesdays, which is for people in the tech space.
Oh. Cool.
Like Steph knows all the stuff about like Bitcoin, like all these different types of crypto. And so we have See You Next Tuesdays. And we also have Thirsty Thursdays, which are like all different artists doing different stuff, like either visual art, music.
Thirsty Thursdays, that's a great name.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, we have so much stuff. And also we still have, although not for that long, we still have some space on the calendar for people to book things.
Yes. Always check out the website calendar.
Or just come for a walkthrough. Like we have on the site where you can book a walkthrough, you can come look at the space. We can decide so everything is also movable within the physical space. So we configure the space however it needs to be configured for your event. So we'll have like panels, we have like, gallery kind of showings. We
comedy
have,
shows.
Comedy shows.
Yeah.
So things are set up really differently each time. Like we have all these like actual like workshops, whether they're like sitting down with the projector, that kind of thing, or whether they're like on your feet, like doing martial arts or whatever. We have all this different stuff. And every day people are coming in and they're like, I'm going to do self-abortion. I'm going to do martial arts. I'm going to do, I'm like, cool, that's great.
We can make it happen.
Yeah.
We'll figure it out.
I've never had a job. I mean, I've been a doula, so I'm like, have I never had a job where I've been able to say like, yes, but also you can't make any promises with birth because I'm like, I don't know how long it's going to be.
Good luck.
People are always like, how long do you think? Like they try and phrase it differently, so I don't know. They're asking me how, like,
it's like question. The answer is always the same.
So I'm like, I wish I knew. If I knew, like, I would definitely. You'd be the first person I would tell.
Did you ever read The Red Tent?
Yeah.
Okay, literally my favorite book, by far, my favorite book. I just needed to know because the fact you said if you didn't, I would be like, come on.
I have it twice I have 2 copies at my house.
Same. You want to know some like witchy weird thing that happened? So I went on a solo trip to New Orleans, and there was
my goal.
Oh, I have a whole list that you can do. I had to do it. It was like something was telling me go on a solo trip to New Orleans. The first day, we'll dive in, but like it was the life-changing experience, right? Found a community that I went beyond the normal tourist shit. Like I didn't even bother with that. It was like I was in the community. It was amazing. But when I did one day of tourist stuff, I found this shop and the address said 222. Now I was seeing 222 everywhere. I'm all into numerology, and it turned out it was like an old school witch shop. It wasn't like the normal tourist one. And I go in, there's like a snake thing on the right, like cool, that type of stuff. And there's a bin that said, dollar books. I look in, and the only book there is The Red Tent. And I'm telling you, this book in itself changed my life, right? And I already read it before. So the fact that it was just in that bin, I was like, okay, it's the only one, and it was $1. And it had a message in it. I forgot what it said. It was like, take this knowledge because it's significant or something like that. And I was just like, I will, and it did.
I love how books like find
you.
We can do everything we want to do with our Kindles and our iPads, but like books are they are persistent.
Yes, they have messages,
and they have power that we don't have, and they've been held by people that we don't know and can't access, and I just don't think we can ever let go of that.
I agree.
I literally, one of the things I did as a tour nanny was go into every bookstore and be like, what Octavia Butler books do you have?
Ooh, yeah.
And it was so also just like, I haven't like had a chance to tell anybody about this, but it was so heartwarming to know in all these like tiny little like Midwestern towns that are like just super rural, they were like, well, everybody's bought them all. And I'm like, yes.
That's good.
You need Octavia Butler.
Yes.
Yes, that's great. That everybody's like,
that.
people are just constantly needing to read Octavia Butler. I'm like, that should always be a thing. And yeah, I mean, I've thought that too. I left behind emergent strategy in a lot of places. And I also left behind.
You do it on purpose?
I would give
smart.
I'd give it to people. And then I also left behind When They Call You a Terrorist, which
I've
is
never
Patrice Concolas' Black Lives Matter memoir. So those are like the books that I'm like
significant.
Like I feel like I bought so many of both of those. I buy it in the town and then like leave it with somebody, but it's just so important to leave people with that.
Yeah.
And also to go into libraries and be like, what do you have on sexual and reproductive health? Here's a list of things you need to order in.
People need to use I need to use libraries more. Like I purchase too much when I have a library card. I can easily find the book.
You can do free printing.
Yeah.
That's another like thing of being Naya's aunt. I'm like, we go to the library and meet babies.
That's actually, it's a way to socialize. And then you also get to get your books that you want.
And the more you go to the library and like get library cards and make those requests of things that aren't there, I'm like, you need to have like, you need to mostly have Black women authors.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's who's coming into your library as like kids. Like Naya needs to be able to read.
Oh,
you know what I
you're
mean?
so great.
Go into libraries and like request books that you love and like would buy.
I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna go to the library this weekend. I need to. I purchase one. My bank account cannot handle the amount of books I want to buy.
I have that on my bookshelf.
Yeah.
Like, and then other people like, because not everybody is having these amazing book lists given to them. But like, if you have great recommendations, make sure that people at your local library can go in and get them.
And that we're gonna leave. Go to your library.
On that.
Follow New Women's Space at New Women's Space, right? And then do you have an Instagram for your organization as well that you want to share?
Yeah, I have the Fifth Vital Sign has an Instagram, which is just the Fifth Vital Sign. And then I have an Instagram, which is Emily Moodbeam, if you want to see Naya.
Cutie patootie, you really should. Or just go to New Women's Space and you'll see her
You
because
will.
she'll be there and she'll give
You
you
will.
a pencil to color with. Thank you so much for being on our show.
Thank you. It was a pleasure. Thank you so much.
I'm supposed to say one last thing that I wasn't prepared for. This episode of the Red Dot Collective is presented in partnership with Listening Party. Follow the crew on Instagram at Listening Party Presents and at Canal Street Market. Also, come to Canal Street Market because it's the shit, and I just ate delicious food here, and the merch here is insane. All right, bye.